simply so I could say I knew a Bible verse. I found the shortest one in the Bible and pretty much said, yeah, I'm a biblician. It's Acts 16:31. It says, "Believe in the Lord Jesus, and your family shall be saved." At the time, I had no idea really what that meant. I had no idea what it meant for my life, what it implied for my life. I mean, before I became a Christ follower, my family, we never went to church. I don't come from a church background. My family and I, we come from, we used to go to church on Easter and Christmas, and that was pretty much about it. And I hated it, simply because I thought it was boring. And then the only reason I went was because we went to a nice restaurant afterwards and ate. So that's the only reason I really went. I mean, then after that, I mean, we moved to Texas, Texas forever, and then we started going to church, and I hated it. I mean, I went pretty much in the back of the church and just like sat there, didn't clap my hands or anything. Just really was there because my parents were there. And then I kind of pretty much started like from 8th grade to my 10th grade year. I pretty much started to do pretty much like with like the jock meter. I wanted to become like the best football player I could, the soccer player I could, just big as fast and trying to be as popular and all that type of stuff. And it was fun, I guess. I mean, but then I started to see some of the guys I was hanging out with started getting into things that I knew weren't right for my life. They started to drink and started to have sex, and I got pretty addicted to pornography for a little while. My life just kind of tanked. Like my grades tanked. Like I started actually not doing that well in sports. Like I was having fun, but I just wasn't really living like the way that I knew I should be living. So from there, and thankfully my parents raised me in a way that I knew that what I was about to start doing was morally wrong. I mean, not so much like spiritually, but I knew that it was morally wrong. So I was like, no, maybe I should take a look back, do like a little life switch. So then I had an opportunity to go with my church to Florida. And I went there, and we pretty much spent like 4 days helping out terminally ill children. It's an awesome organization. It's called pretty much we spent actually doing Christmas with these kids. I mean, like it was, which is ironic because it was the middle of summer in Florida, so it was really hot and like 100 degrees. And I was like, this is Christmas. There was no snow, but it was awesome. Like we spent a lot of time with these kids. I mean, like I was the abominable snowman. I had this like massive white suit, and it was so hot, but it was a lot of fun. Like handing out candy canes and stuff. And what struck me though, what kind of made my life kind of step back and take a different perspective was, it kind of made me mad at myself because I was like, I've been given this awesome opportunity just to live, and all these kids could die in a week, in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and I mean, yeah, it was sad, but like that was actually what could happen. And I started to look at these kids, and I'm like, all of them, every single one of them was just as happy as could be, and like a lot of them. Like the older ones knew that they didn't have much longer left, and they were 13 years old. I mean, and they knew that I may not have another week. And what made them happy, though, I found out was that all the ones that I talked to knew that they were safe because they loved God and that God loved them, and that because of that they had nothing to be afraid of. And it was the simplest logic I'd ever heard in my entire life. But I was like, it hit me like a truck. And I'm like, maybe I should give this a try. Maybe I should give like this whole Christianity, loving Jesus, a try. And so from there, I came back and I went to church. I mean, I went from the back row to the front row in a matter of like since I got back, and I started taking notes. I started to enjoy it, and then I started talking to my pastor about baptism. I'm like, what does this really mean? He's like, it's simply it's a public symbol that you're dying to yourself and that you're raising again in a life with God, knowing that what Christ did, not what you did, is why you're saved and why you have a chance of salvation. I'm like, that sounds awesome. So I tried it out. I mean, I got baptized on Good Friday the following year. 07. And then after that, I started to see the world and both people in a different way. I started to be more patient with people. I started to feel called to be with people on my soccer team that I worked with. Matthew 4:19 became a cornerstone of my life. It talks about how we as Christians should be fishers of men and how we should be there for people. And so I started to do that. I started to let the Spirit kind of flow out through me, and I started to realize I'm like, this life is like what I've done. I deserve death. Like I deserve to die right now. But because of what Jesus did, because He showed mercy and grace into my life and all of us, that's why I have a chance for salvation. And so from there, I just started to really become I started to get really passionate about it. I started to be excited to go to church. I started to really just enjoy. I started to love worship. And in closing, I guess I just gotta say, since I've become a Christian, my life has been so much more full, so much more satisfying. I go to bed knowing that there's just so much more opportunities the next day, and I wake up that next day excited for those opportunities, and it's awesome because I just feel so excited to see people that I've come to bring to Christ, not because of me, but because Christ is using me as a vessel. Like my entire mindset went to servant mentality. It's just like the more of a servant we are for Christ, like the more that He'll be glorified, and the more that we can work for His kingdom. So.